freshwater lake. Large numbers of animals in a game reserve nearby rely on the lake. Large herds of domestic animals that drink from the lake has contributed to the depletion of the vegetation cover around the lake, paving way for soil erosion. This causes a heavy siltation to the lake. Besides game and domestic animals, Lake Naivasha supports the largest horticultural and in particular floricultural industry in Kenya. Some staggering 60 flower farms line the entire lakeside, growing for export, largely to the European Union, contributing to 70% of the total flower export in Kenya. In the year 2009 alone, over 400 million worth of flower was exported. Large-scale farming activities like the Delamere's thousands of acres ranch has had an impact on the Lake Naivasha since the time it was acquired by the 3rd Baron Delamere in 1904. The water from the lake is used for irrigation of farms and consumption of water by large herds of cattle. Besides large-scale economic activities, small-scale activities thrive around the lake. Lake Naivasha supports about 5,000 fishermen directly, while another 50,000 depend on the lake's fishery sources indirectly. Population explosion around Lake Naivasha is as a result of the economic activities around the lake and is a major factor impacting on Lake Naivasha. With a modern highway A104 joining Naivasha town to Nairobi city, the distance does not matter. It becomes an hour's drive with such a highway. Big clubs and big sites spill over the city to the less congested Naivasha town, now exploding at 300,000 inhabitants. A number of satellite towns of Naivasha exist. They rely directly on the lake for water for domestic use. With all of these factors, the lake management and the control of the development of the town becomes a big challenge. Lake Naivasha is managed by the community under the banner Lake Naivasha Riparian Owners Association. The Ramsar sites face almost similar challenges. Lake Nakuru is surrounded by a high agrarian population. With a lot of deforestation taking place to pave way for farming, the rivers Njoro and Mau that recharge the lake are on the verge of extinction and cause heavy siltation to the lake. Nakuru town, being the 3rd largest town in Kenya, is situated only 5 kilometers away from Lake Nakuru. Management problems of the lake affect the lake. Lake Nakuru, which is managed by the Kenya Wildlife Service, has a huge population of wild animals, neighboring an equally large farming community. This has resulted in a huge human-wildlife conflict.
We have a lot of problems with pollution coming from the town. In the town, we have stormwater which comes to the park, and this stormwater carry all the refuse from the town. And what we usually do, we erect screens to bar all those refuse from the town. We also have a sewage coming from the town. Sometimes when it is not well treated, it discharges all those refuse to the park.
A similar effect of siltation experienced in Lake Nakuru is also found in Lake Bogoria. With such kind of depletion of natural vegetation cover resulting from poor land use and unsustainable agricultural practices, the lake chokes with heavy siltation from gully erosion. With the main economic activity around Lake Bogoria being cattle grazing, overstocking is a serious challenge. You will find large herds of cattle as the main economic activity. This has had a depletion effect of the vegetation cover, leading to gully erosion and in consequence, heavy siltation to Lake Bogoria. The main conservation issue in Lake Baringo is heavy siltation, largely due to gully erosion, as is evident from the lake's brownish color. A major contribution to the conservation problems is the lack of awareness by the communities that their economic activities around the lake affect it, besides other problems.
We are not reaching the people sufficiently. People are aggressive on the ground, and we need to further talk to them everywhere. If we want to conserve our forests and catchments, we need to further extend our invitation to the people. So the council doesn't have enough money as a council, and so we request donors and stakeholders generally to come in. The other is education. It is a limitation. The education of the people towards these resources, what they offer, is also a limitation. So we need more lectures and people going to the ground.
Prosopis juliflora, commonly known as mathenge, is an emerging environmental problem around the lake. The shrub forms a dense, impenetrable thicket that gradually chokes up the other plants, leaving much of the soil bare and prone to erosion. Other challenges include high fluoride levels of the lake that can create health problems, as the lake is a source of drinking water.
Shida yetu sana watu ya Baringo hapa hivi ni haya ya maji ambayo yako na fluoride kiasi, ndio maana inafanya watu menao yote na ina change na kwa brown. Tena shida tena ya maji ni kuwa ukishakunywa kwa zaidi ya miaka 45 ama 50 unapata ile shida ile ya uti wa mgongo.
Walking across most parts of Lake Elementaita is easy, as is evident from these water birds. This is as a result of heavy siltation being the main threat to conservation efforts of the lake. Improper agricultural practices like overgrazing and subsistent cultivation around the lake and the wider catchment area cause erosion and consequently siltation. All matters pertaining to Ramsar's Convention's mitigation policy, Kenya Wildlife Service is the Ramsar authority representing the government of Kenya and one of the key stakeholders of wetland conservation in Kenya. It is mandated to implement and oversee conservation efforts on behalf of the Ramsar Convention and the government of Kenya, and therefore liaising with the wetland stakeholders in implementation of conservation efforts. Concerted efforts among stakeholders are in place depending on the management style of each Ramsar site, government efforts put in place, and international community participation.
The Ramsar Convention, which Kenya is a signatory to, is administered by Kenya Wildlife Service. And we as Kenya Wildlife Service are taking the issue of wetlands very seriously because it's also the home to a lot of wildlife. And we as an organization are working with other partners, specifically the National Museums of Kenya, to create the awareness about protection of our wetlands. We are also giving technical support to other interested groups to ensure that they protect wetlands as much as possible. There are other groups which are also creating artificial wetlands, and we are trying to encourage them so that we have as many water bodies as possible and also protecting the existing water bodies.
The most studied lake in the region is Lake Naivasha, and information from this research assists in making informed conservation decisions. The National Museums of Kenya play part in the role of research towards better conservation and sustainable harvesting methods of aquatic plants around the lake. These aquatic plants are sometimes overexploited and may affect the Lake Naivasha's ecosystem. A management plan is in place as a result of an initiative spearheaded by the Lake Naivasha Riparian Association, a community-based association together with other stakeholders.
Plot 1, plot 2.
National Museums of Kenya found a need to do a research on sustainable harvesting of this papyrus plant. So this research is aimed at establishing the harvesting regime that is the best harvesting regime for this important macrophyte. And at the end of this study, we should be able to advise the local communities on the best harvesting methods and also the best harvesting time regime.
This flower farm, which has been operational since the early 80s, put up an artificial wastewater treatment wetland in 1998. The artificial wetland runs 5 kilometers from their premises to the lake.
Behind me is cell 3 of the Kingfisher constructed wetland. And before the cell 3, we have cell 1 and 2, as seen earlier. The cells basically act as retention ponds. And within the cells, we have also introduced the plants which take up nutrients, and also riparian plants along the cells to improve our aesthetics and also help in uptake of various nutrients from whatever time the wastewater gets into the cell.
In Naivasha, we are dependent on Lake Naivasha, which is a Ramsar site, and we are very conscious of the fact that we have to deal with it very responsibly, because it is a scarce resource, and we have to ensure that we deal with it in a responsible way. For that reason, as part of that policy, we have constructed wetlands on each of our farms where we treat our water, we treat all the effluent, and we ensure that the water that goes back to the lake is actually cleaner than the water that we've abstracted from it. Also, as part of that policy, we have closed irrigation systems, we have water recycling projects, we also have integrated pest management projects and a sister company called Dudutech, where we deal in the production of beneficials or beneficial dudus that actually take care of the pests and diseases that we have.
The National Museums of Kenya, also among the stakeholder fraternity, is the government's focal point in implementing Ramsar Convention's communication, education and public awareness policy in Kenya.
The National Museums of Kenya participates in several international conventions and protocols. Key among them is the Ramsar Protocol. And the Ramsar Protocol is implemented in the National Museums of Kenya by the Department of Wetlands. And the focal point for the communication, education, and public awareness bit of the Ramsar Protocol is what the Department of Wetlands of the National Museums of Kenya undertakes.
The Ramsar Convention's communication, education and public awareness activities involve the production of awareness publications for public awareness.
Communication, education and public awareness program of the Ramsar Convention promotes the use of medium and different modes to create awareness to the communities on the wise use principle of wetlands. There has been various modes of communicating to the public, especially through modes like posters, brochures, seminars and workshops, all geared towards ensuring that they use wetlands to their own benefit, at the same time trying to conserve them. Some of the initiatives which have been done around wetlands are like fish farming, promotion of ecotourism around wetlands, and these have mainly served as incentives to the communities, so they do not feel as if they are conserving in vain.
Other public awareness activities involve discussion forums among stakeholders and organizing awareness campaigns for the communities living around wetlands.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
The community